Greetings, it is February 28th, 2014. I am A K Segan, and for the benefit of many supporters and followers of my work who are scattered around the United States and in different countries, including classmates from grade school, junior high, high school, college, 2 different undergraduate colleges, and graduate school, I'm going to read a very fine article that was authored by a writer for the MIZZOU alumni magazine at the University of Missouri, Columbia, named John Beahler. It was published in the 1998 winter issue of MIZZOU magazine. Here's the cover. The cover article is called "Let's Eat, a Look at Cravings and Cuisines." The article that John Beahler wrote was on page 50, entitled "Fallen Angels." And as it happens that the photograph that they used to accompany the article was of a drawing from the Under the Wings of God art series, which is not yet framed, and it was accessible. I pulled it out, unwrapped it so I could film it in the course of reading the article. I'll try not to wander my hand too much here. Fallen Angels by John Beahler. From his days as an art student in Poland during the mid-1980s, Ken A K Segan still remembers how the horror of the Holocaust was brought home to him. On his first visit to the Birkenau death camp, Segan climbed to the top of a guard tower for a bird's-eye view of the place where Nazis murdered hundreds of thousands of Jews during World War II. Most of the camp's barracks had been torn down, leaving rows of chimneys standing as a testimony to genocide. Wind whistled through missing boards on the few remaining buildings. It was, quote, a huge expanse, a city, a whole city built to kill people, Segan, MFA 80, recalls. That image I just can't keep out of my mind. I really felt the presence of the dead, unquote. He doesn't want others to forget either. Since 1991, the Seattle-based artist has created a series of drawings that quietly commemorates Holocaust victims. His goal is to use art to promote tolerance of others as well as to educate people about the Holocaust. The project is called Under the Wings of God. In deference to Jewish tradition, the O is dropped because to spell it would profane God's name. Segan uses archival photos from the Warsaw Ghetto during the early 1940s. Looking at those photos is a moving experience, he says, because almost all of these individuals likely died in the death camps or the ghetto. Quote, in so many of the photos, the innocents, as they call them, look right into the camera's lens. Their eyes say so much, especially the children's, he says. These are people like you and me, end of quote. He breaks down the anonymity of those genocide victims by adding wings to the portraits. Segan says that winged angels are not solely an image from Christian tradition. Both the Bible and Jewish folktales are filled with angels. He says, wings are a metaphor for freedom, and in the Torah, they are symbols of shelter and redemption. The New York native rediscovered his Jewish roots after moving to the Midwest in the mid-1970s to attend college, first in Illinois and then at MIZZOU. He settled in Seattle after graduation. A few years later, Segan spent 2 summers studying in Poland, which he calls a vast Jewish cemetery. Quote, I saw vestiges of a once vibrant and flourishing Jewish life in Poland everywhere I traveled, end of quote. His experiences in Poland sparked the Wings of God project. More than 30 of the projected 50 drawings are completed, and Segan has established a foundation to continue Holocaust education. Fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors remain alive to tell their stories, Segan says, and, quote, Holocaust revisionists are stepping up their campaigns of hate and disinformation. Segan sees American politicians manipulating distrust of minorities and immigrants for political gain. Quote, it scares me when political leaders of both parties don't announce platforms built on hate, end of quote. Are we then, when all is said and done, our brother's keeper? Segan quotes an old friend and Holocaust survivor, "We ought to be." Thank you, John Beahler and the Alumni Association of the University of Missouri at Columbia for this very, very fine article, published again in winter 1998. A couple of quick postscripts. The foundation the article mentioned was very short-lived and never really got off the ground, so there is no foundation any longer. The foundation, metaphorically, is this large body of work I've created in the Under the Wings of God series. And several years later, in 2003, I began a companion series called Sightseeing with Dignity, depicting victims of pre- and post-World War II hate crimes, genocide, war, and human rights atrocities. There's one work that predates World War II, a drawing of a lynched young African-American man. He was lynched in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, around 1935. I'll also mention, since I have this drawing up, which depicts Mordecai and Levitz, there's a excerpt filmed by SIU Carbondale classmate Dan Flazer of St. Louis when the Hillel director at Southern Illinois University at Carbondale and Dan and I went to Unity Point Elementary School in Carbondale. I was on a two-city lecture tour, both my alma maters, main ones, the SIU Carbondale and MU Columbia. And there's an excerpt of a talk I gave in which I had the actual drawing at the Unity Point Elementary School. And I will attach the URL to the text description of this film here because I talk about the baby cockatiels that are seen in the bottom portions of this drawing of Mordecai and Levitz. So there's babies here, parents upside down, feeding the kids, the children, more cockatiels, and Mordecai and Levitz was the leader of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in the ghetto during the annihilation and liquidation of the ghetto's 50,000 or so residents in April 1943, and he died during the uprising. There you have it. Thank you again, University of Missouri.